Right, thanks for joining us on the DFR Debrief, Steve. Special guest, thanks for joining us. We've been hoping to have you come chat to us for a little while, so appreciate it. Sorry about the weather. 1-1 today against South Shields. Just briefly, how did you sum that one up today?
I think it's becoming a hard watch, the way that we found ourselves having to play at home, which is a shame. We're shouting things like me and Terry never thought we'd be shouting, like just get it forward, straight from the back. But it is what it is at the moment. So, look, Jack's been great. It was a nice move for the first goal. One of the few really decent sort of moves we put together today. And he's in form. He's a good finisher. When we've got somebody like him to go along too, we really have to gamble more. So I didn't think we did that well enough today. I think Jack's going to be one of those who's going to win maybe 50% of his headers, and even the ones he doesn't win, sometimes nobody wins them. So I just thought that if we really had that real sort of ruthless streak a little bit more, would be gambling every time he went up as opposed to waiting. So I thought that was that was a little bit disappointing today. Very disappointed with the goal. You'll make mistakes on this pitch, but it wasn't a mistake down to the pitch. It was communication. It was just awareness. And I thought I was disappointed with the way the goal went in. And it's happened 3 or 4 times in the past few weeks. So just disappointed with the manner in which it went in. Second half, it kind of ended up probably the correct score. I don't think any team looked brilliant second half. I don't think any team could make any kind of passes. They probably had better chances than we did, but we've not lost it. We've not lost a game. It was a derby. We were desperate not to lose it, but I don't think we did enough to win it either.
So you mentioned it there that you and Terry shouting things from the dugout, like just getting it forward and stuff. Fair to say over the last few weeks, particularly, the pitch has been as big an influence on the playing style and matches as any of the players. Work to be done on over the summer, definitely.
Well, yeah, I don't want to start criticising too much, but it's difficult because we've not got a team that's set up to do that. So we've got a team that we try and play through the thirds, we try and play from the keeper, we try and get it from side to side. It's been really difficult to do that. So, and as I say, it can't be a great watch either. So it's, as I say, we've recruited that way, and halfway through the season, or as soon as the sort of January, February came, we felt we had to change the way we played a little bit, and I'm not sure it's worked too well.
We wanted to grab you, Steve, a little bit as well as talking about today, because this might be one of the chances we get to have a little bit of a reflection of the season so far. It looks like it's going to be 11th or thereabouts for the season. I just wondered how you feel about it, what your reflections are, where you think we've improved, and where you think we are.
Well, we haven't scored enough goals, and we're probably people that were sort of 7, 8, 9 goals last season, haven't hit those levels again. We haven't got players into double figures, and I speak to Terry and quite honestly, I think that's been the main difference between finishing where we probably will and finishing right in the middle of it, right in the middle of the playoffs, and I think it's been that simple. We've had really bad luck with injuries, as has everybody. We've been without a captain and probably with player of the year for most of the season, and he'll admit it himself, he's probably still not back to where he was last season yet because of the amount of games he's missed. As I say, we've improved, but when we needed those run of clean sheets, we just started to leak a little bit, which was disappointing. I thought defensively we were excellent first half of the season, and just errors have just crept in a little bit. And you can't work on that. It's difficult. People will say why is that happening? But people make mistakes in football everywhere. Best golfers in the world miss 3-foot putts. It's just you make mistakes, but we've just seemed to have had over the last sort of 4 or 5 games our fair share of that. So that's been disappointing. Look, I think we're probably one of the better teams in the league, if I'm being honest. But the points tally probably doesn't prove that at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned sort of injuries and stuff there. You look at kind of the march that we had, 9 games, Saturday, Tuesday, all the time. Players, picking up injuries and things. It's got to take a toll on the players, hasn't it? They'll probably be quite glad of a rest after next Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you look at people like Will Hatfield, whose running stats on a weekly and game basis are really, really high. We haven't really been able to give him a breather. We haven't been able to give sort of Scotty's 36, I think, and this is the first day we've probably been able to give him a rest. But we'll probably roll them back out on Monday, because we'll have to freshen it up, and we've got people ready to come in on Monday. So Elliot's back, and Jared's chomping at the bit, and young Sam. So we've got options to freshen it up as well. But yeah, it has been a hard season regarding injury wise, and but I do think. I think if you ask many teams that have played against us when we've been at it, I think they'll say, we're a match for anybody. We've had some great results along the way. The Kitty away game, I thought, was an excellent team performance. But we've also probably surrendered too many leads, and that mentality side of it, I think, needs improving.
So I heard one of your interviews with Ray, you talked about the journey that we're on and the prospects at the club, and I just wondered at what sort of stage does that transition, thinking about next season, happen for you? And I know we've got 2 games left, and we're going to put everything into those games, but from a process point of view, have you got your list already of targets that you've got? Are the areas of the pitch that you're already thinking of that you'd like to try and develop into next season, or is it just too early yet?
No, we've been working really hard at recruitment, me and Terry. We've got a huge list of potential targets for next season. We've also got a chat about the players that are here. A, who will carry on with us on the journey. B, do they want to? But we really need a really ambitious set of players, because getting promoted and getting into the playoffs and getting promoted is why we're here. It was always going to be very difficult to get anywhere near it last year. This year was always going to be tough because we've had one window, but we feel like we've improved. We do think that with football at times we should be higher, but we've just explained the reasons why. So yeah, next season it is we somewhere down the line we want to be in a new stadium, we want to be in the National League, we want to be higher, but it is difficult. If you look at the teams who are doing really well, you've got all your full-time teams, probably with the exception of Shields, there or thereabouts, and have we got the budget at the moment to guarantee to say you should be in the playoffs? Maybe not. So I think where we are this season is probably where, ultimately, with all the mistakes and things I mentioned and injuries, probably where we should be, but it's certainly not where we're looking to be next season.
So what sort of areas will you and Terry sort of be looking to improve upon next season, with players coming in and just to try and make that extra little push and try and get in amongst those playoffs and stay at that end of the table for as much of the season as we can?
To be honest, it's difficult to answer that question because we haven't had a chat to the players yet. So I think I'll just be as sort of vague as possible, but it's just kind of what I mentioned. We need more goals. We need to create and score more goals. And as I said, 10, 15 more goals spread throughout the squad this season would have us where we wanted to be. But that comes from everywhere. That comes from midfield. It comes from wide. It comes from set plays. But it's not rocket science. That's where we need to improve. But obviously, we need to have a chat to the lads first before going to sort of specifics of positional and things like that.
We're probably getting quite drenched here. So
your computer is,
I know my computer
I think that
is.
might be a good idea to take that away.
I think I will actually. Yes, I need to work on that.
Give it to me while you.
Go on then. Thank you, Mike.
Get it
what
out
a
of the
team we are here. Me and Mike, big Darlow fans for decades. We're always very proud of Booster Budget as fans, as well as anything else that we do on the radio and stuff like that. How important is that, and particularly, how important is it to understand where we are from a budget point of view as early in the month as possible? Because I imagine it runs through the month of May. You get to the end of the month of May, and a lot of the decisions might have already been made.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we have some good news regarding the potential future. Hopefully before or in and around when Booster Budget is, because then people who have been so fantastically generous, but they'll see a plan and they'll see a way forward, and until we have a rough idea what that is, which we don't yet, it's difficult. I mean, you put your base in place, I think, first of all, and then, as I say, you've got a list of targets, but you're not guaranteed to get them. It's really tough because players will always try and go full time first. So the amount of players we lose out to sort of Shields and Scunnies and things like that, because they want to be full time, and that's just the fact. That's just the facts of what it is. And then obviously none of these lads have made the type of money that'll keep them from working when they retire. So they're also going to go where they can get a few more quid. So it's that, in that respect, it's very tough. We're not going to get a Glenn Taylor. We're not going to get a Paul Blackett at the moment.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the fans' fundraising abilities there, and obviously something you've touched on a lot in interviews as well. A word for the fans and the support that they've offered the club during match days. Obviously today quite a scruffy game, finished as a draw, but that tin shed just never stops making a noise.
No, they're brilliant. We've one of the best days of my football life. The end of last season, the last home game. It was really, really touching day, and it was fantastic. And I'm a North East lad. I know how big and where Darlow can be. That's our plan. I mean, Terry, on people that have just came here to do a job. We're here to be taking the club where they need to go, and obviously. Well, I talked about earlier, if we get good news regarding sort of a plan for the club moving forward, it will give people that little bit more optimism. But we certainly feel like we're capable of going in the right direction with the squad next season. Finish as high as we can this season. If we can get 72 points, I think we can get. It might just get us in the top 10, and that alone's probably been as good as we've done for quite a few years. But yeah, I just thought we've certainly missed opportunities as the season's gone on. But I suppose you could sit here and speak to everybody, and they'd probably look back and say, could have done this differently, should have held on to that win, should have done that differently. But we are where we are, I'm afraid. So finish the season as high as we can, and hopefully loads of optimism for next.
Brilliant. Steve, thank you. We'll let you go because we're all getting drenched, but we really appreciate you
Try
coming
hard
out and
not to
chatting
shiver
to us.
over.
I know my hand was going like this. I hope nobody could see it, but I really appreciate you joining us, and good luck for the last couple of games. And it's been a good season of progress, even if it's a little bit short of.
Yeah, as I said, it was always going to be a big ask. We spent half the season in the bottom two, so it was always going to be a big turnaround to go straight from there to where we're going to go. We just, as long as we've seen progression, I'm sort of pleased in that respect. I'll never be totally happy until we're where we need to be.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks
Thank
for
you
joining
very
us.
much.
Appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.
Top man, appreciate it. Thanks for saving me computer as well.